Hi there, welcome to the program. Yet again, we've got a great show. I've been looking forward to this interview. I did an interview with Captain Rick Caton out of Teach's Lair Marina on Hatteras Island. He's the charter boat captain of the Free Agent. I've known Rick for almost 40 years. He's a Pamlico County boy, brought up literally fishing for the big drum and the tarpon there in the Pamlico Neuse River area. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the bluefin tuna activity that's going on right now here in February. We're going to be talking about seawater surface temperatures, cobia fishing, big bluefish, sea mullet, a lot of things, even red snapper. So I did a Zoom call with Captain Rick Caton, and so let's just go into it right now. You have been fishing all your life. You originally from Pamlico County, big drum, tarpon, trout, all that kind of stuff. You're now your charters are out of Teach's Lair and Hatteras. What's going on during the wintertime? What's a typical wintertime type fishery for if you get a charter? What's the typical fishery? What would be happening now?
Well, if you're allowed to get out, if Mother Nature allows you to get out, which thus far this winter has been brutal. I mean, today I'm sitting here today, it's blowing a gale. We can't get out. We're in the commercial fishing aspect of it. I charter fish in the summer, and so does my son. And I work with my son in the winter time on his boat, commercial fishing for sharks, king mackerel, bluefish. That's pretty much it. And we thus far this winter, if you get out 2 days a week doing what we're doing, we're fishing offshore,
Right.
out from under the lee of the beach. Now the boys fishing for sea mullets up under where it's calm, they have been doing good, but out of
Well,
where we need.
let me stop you, Rick. Now you're
Okay.
talking about not being able to get out, and it's and obviously winds will prohibit that. But do you still have the problem with Oregon Inlet? Is it still a sloppy mess?
Oregon Inlet's a mess. Hatteras is a mess. Every inlet down here is a mess. We've been pretty much thrown under the bus, actually. Now, due to whatever reasons is available, the new Miss Katie, the dredge, it spends most of its time up at Oregon Inlet. But down here, like I said, all the inlets, we have a major shoaling problem with all the inlets. Getting in and out of the inlet, we've had enough water here. It was really rough getting out yesterday, but with the weather and stuff, it's just everything changes.
Yeah,
The shoals move weekly.
right.
If you're not out there every day, you're going to have a problem. There's no way right now that I don't think anybody could actually come in Hatteras Inlet without tearing their boat up.
Oh no, I mean
Oh
it's
yeah,
this.
the buoys are there, but the buoys are there, but the shoals have gone beyond the buoys, and the buoys need to be moved, and the buoys aren't getting moved.
Well, yeah, usually when you get into the backwaters, you'll see on like a grease chart, it'll say refer to local knowledge. And unfortunately, you're having to refer to local knowledge for both Oregon and Hatteras Inlet because literally it can change on a daily basis. And the buoys are more of a point of reference, shall we say.
Buoys are a suggestion.
Oh, God, no.
That's what the buoys are.
Yeah. And so I do want to pass that along to somebody who might be bringing their boat, who's visiting. He's not a regular through the inlet. That it will not only during the wintertime, but during the summertime, springtime, and fall time, it's going to be changing.
If it was me and I had a big boat with no keel, and I had not been in Hatteras Inlet, I would highly suggest calling CETO and have them meet you at the sea buoy to escort you to the dock, and that way you can get it on your plotter for future reference to have us another suggestion, because it will
Right,
be different probably within a week.
right. Very good suggestion. Now I'm going to something's in my mind and just off the wall. It was September 29th. The Jeanette's Pier reported that beach water temperatures were 39 degrees. 2 days later, on the 31st, they reported beach water temperatures 45 degrees, a big jump. And looking at the sea surface temperature imagery, that up there out of that Oregon Inlet north of Hatteras Island, the water temperatures change radically. Number one, is this something that you typically would see? And number two, what does that mean in regards to fishing when water temperatures can change so quick?
Oh, I'll tell you, the water temperatures change down here really quick. The Gulf Stream is so close. The NOAA weather buoy that's out located 18 miles offshore has been a consistent 65 to 70 degrees all winter. The other day, the water 4 miles off the beach was 63, 63 to 65, and
Yeah.
we actually dropped down yesterday and caught some sea bass, and they were really the surface temperature was 62, but they were really warm. So the water on the bottom is warmer. My
Right.
son actually has a 150-foot transducer when we will take and drop a temperature gauge down to the bottom, and you will see anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 degrees different at times where the surface temperature will be colder.
Now that's wintertime. Would that hold true during the summertime?
I'll tell you what happens down here in the summertime, like along the beach. Consistently down here in Hatteras, you will always have warm water because the southwest wind is blowing straight into the beach. Okay, when you turn Cape Point down in Hatteras, the beach runs east and west. As soon as you turn Cape Point, the beach turns north and south. Well, when you get up in the Oregon Inlet area, a southwest wind, which is your prevailing predominant wind all summer, that's from the land going offshore. I've watched the water temperatures there when it blows hard southwest go from 75 to 65 in 4 hours
Wow.
because it blows the top layer of water offshore, therefore bringing the bottom layer to the top, like circumventing it to the
Right.
top. Is called updwelling.
Right.
But we don't have that problem here, and it's consistently warm on the beach in the summer.
Okay. Well, without diving down here, I'm using pun terms. Right now, fishing. We've been hearing a lot about bluefin tuna with the folks up there. Also been hearing up and down the coast drum. I want to touch on drum because again, you're a Pamlico County boy. You grew up catching big drum. You grew up catching tarpon, and we both know and love Owen Lupton, who's the Owen Lupton rig is required for big drum fishing here in the state of North Carolina.
My
Uh,
mentor, he is my
but
mentor.
in more ways than one.
True.
Number one, has the drum fishery changed over, I'm going to say 50 years, because you've been fishing it for more than that, but has the drum fishery changed in 50 years? And two, for the wintertime drum fishery, what are we looking at? We're hearing them catching them out of the surf right now. Is that where we need to be fishing?
There's some boys that have been doing very well in the surf. The water temperature right before this snow that we had like 11 inches here in Hatteras,
Oh,
and there was snow drifts that were chest high, but it went from 32 to 32 to 33 degrees at Odin's Dock in Hatteras, where my son has his boat tied up. It went from 32 to 33 degrees up to 58 degrees in a matter of 5 days.
wow.
I think that the cold water had shoved the drum on this side out the inlet, and they were up and down the beach from the point, not the point, but the point, the north point in Hatteras, or the east point rather, in Hatteras, right on strung up and down the beach. As we were coming in 2 or 3 days ago, we watched 8 or 10 guys catching them, and a lot of my friends are catching. I mean, they're casting artificial jigs, rubber baits, and they're catching just slot size, mostly slot size fish, 28 inches and under,
What
and
about
lots of them.
bluefish? Well, what about bluefish? The world record bluefish was something like 31 pounds, was caught in January of 72, I think it was. And the guy was using a plastic eel for that bluefish that he caught. It was in Hatteras Inlet that he caught it. So, but what caught my attention was the January date. Or do you have bluefish up in that neck of the
We
woods?
we we've got some, not along the beach. I don't know. I don't think they're catching any along the beach, but we caught some the other day, net fishing. Some medium 2 to 4 pound bluefish 4 or 5 miles off the beach. They've kind of like disappeared right now, but they were a consistent. We could take and go around. We'll find a mark and we'll drop a jig down to see what it is. And
Right.
like yesterday, we had a killer mark and we dropped the jig down and it was moonfish. We
Oh,
tried to catch them, but they were moving so fast we couldn't intercept them with the net.
right. Well, let me ask you something else because I just find interesting because I don't for the longest time, like when I was doing the live daily show in the '90s, everything seemed to shut down from December to about March. You know, the bait and tackle shops, the piers, it was just you couldn't get fishing report information, which is deceptive in the fact that the fish were there, just no one was fishing for them. But one of the things that I was noticing, maybe it's just me this year, is menhaden. We've had large pods of menhaden off of topsail. Jeanette's Pier was last week, I think it was, had a huge pod of menhaden that the porpoises were on, the seagulls were on, the drum were on, everything were on. Is that atypical that the menhaden are here in the wintertime?
Yeah, the boys yesterday were having where they were catching them in their sea mullet nets along the beach,
Hmm.
and they're right on the beach, right on out to like a quarter of a mile, no more than a mile most of the time. They're in up under the beach, but there were some guys threw cast nets on them to go king mackerel fishing with the live bait, so they're there.
You've made mention about sea mullets a couple of times. Is that something available to somebody like me who currently has no boat that's to go surf fishing, or the guys inland? Is how far off are these sea mullets that are being caught?
The most of them are out, you know, 20 foot and on out. I right offhand, I do not recall as of lately hearing of anybody catching any in the surf. Predominantly, they've been catching the slot-sized red drum.
Right, right. And one other thing that and there's a commercial fishery. Well, I guess there's a fishery. I shouldn't say commercial fishery for king mackerel during the winter time. And I assume that the reason why a lot of boats don't head out recreationally is because it's the winter time. You're
You
getting
just
teary
don't get
eyed.
any. You don't get any pretty weather. I mean, if you're going to like us commercial fishing right now, if you don't fish, a pretty day is still a rough day. So what you have to do is you have to fish the prettiest of the rough days. It's
Oh
all
boy.
right. It's
Yeah.
just there's no escape from it. And if you don't fish rough days, you're not going to make a living. That's just the way it's got to be.
Well, you brought up and I want to bring it back up, the dynamics of Hatteras Island. You got a South Beach and a North Beach, and they're affected. You got the Labrador Current effects coming down. You got the Gulf Stream coming in. I talk a lot on the show about in between the Point of Hatteras and Cape Lookout is where you'll get the warmest waters coming into Coral Banks, Portsmouth Island. You'll see these finger eddies off of the Gulf Stream. Um, and by the way, out of Hatteras Inlet, correct me when I'm wrong, is that not the closest point to the Gulf Stream?
That is the closest point. That is the closest point to the Gulf Stream. We'll take like sight casting. I've seen numerous times, and one of my main customers, we've caught a big dolphin, 15, 20 pound dolphin in the inlet, sight casting around the buoys. That's into summertime now, like
Yeah.
late May, June. But you'll still have warm water. Like I said, right? We took the other day and we took and dropped the jig down if 4 miles off the beach here, 4 miles off the beach. 5 days ago, we were catching red snappers, jigging bucktails 4 miles off the beach.
Um, I do want to talk about red snapper. Let's just, if you wouldn't mind, let's touch on a few things. If somebody's drum fishing, uh, oh boy, there's so many ways to do. Name us some baits and lures. Like for fishing for drum right now in Outer Banks in January, February, March. What are some preferred baits or artificial lures?
The plastic base a lot of the guys using is called Z-Man, uh, Finesse. They're pretty much the two best ones.
What about on the backside? Now we've had the cold sun event and speckled trout and all. What about speckled trout fishing? Well, let's go on up towards the Neuse River on in Pamlico, that area. What's some of your favorite wintertime speckled trout lures?
If I was to be over there doing it, I myself, I like fishing with live bass shiners.
Huh,
That's
okay.
what I do. I go to there in New Bern. I'll go to Merchants Mill Pond, not Merchants Mill, but Merchants. I think it's called Merchants around Blunt's Creek, and I like live minnows, but pretty much the Z Man and the finesse is going to be the bait of choice for that too. Just different sizes.
I knew some guys, this was years ago, and I know somebody's going to get upset with what I'm about to say, but they would go down to Walmart and buy goldfish and use them as bait.
Oh, I heard that was great. I haven't ever tried it, but I heard it was a great bait. Looks like a great bait to me.
That's right.
If I was a trout, I'd eat one.
That's what, yeah, it's like, do you need any fish food? No, this is the fish food. All right, Rick, I want to jump back on a management thing about red snapper. What's going on? Did they shut down the commercial red snapper fishery?
I myself have not been kept abreast of the situation with the commercial. If it is asinine as managed as the recreational quota, it's really a joke. It's just it's there's some days that you're bottom fishing in the summer that you can't anywhere you go, you can't get away from them. You'll catch more of them than you will your target species, and I'm generally targeting triggerfish and sea bass and vermilion snappers, and you just have to leave. There's just so many of them, and I don't understand why on the west down in Florida and on the west coast down in Louisiana they have a great red snapper seasons. For someone to come up and here in North Carolina or on the East Coast and say we're going to give you a 2-day snapper season. 2 days is not a season. 2 days is a weekend. A season is every day for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
That's a season.
Right.
But it's really ridiculous. And as far as the fisheries meetings go, my son will never go to one. He went to his last red snapper meeting. And this is the philosophy of why we can't have a red snapper season. We can't have a red snapper season. And this is what the scientists said. We can't have a red snapper season because too many are discarded in other bottom fishing industries. Well, duh. Ray Charles and Helen Keller and Stevie Wonder can see that that's not right. And I mean, if you're catching that many,
Yeah.
why can't we have a boat limit? And it's just like with this snowy grouper, one to the boat. Seriously, it's like cobia. You mean you got 6 paying customers, and the captain and the mate, if you just to give one to the customers, one per person, it's like the cobias, 4 to the boat. If you got 6 paying customers, what about the 2 guys? The other 4 are going to have to share those with them, I suppose.
Right.
I don't know.
And by the way, I do want to interject that you are you're an everything fisherman, but you cobia fish a lot. Now, Rick, by the way, the Mr. Zoom says we're running out of time. So can you real quickly just address cobia fishing out of the Hatteras area?
Cobia fishing, we have compared to Florida, and I've commercial fished and sports fish farm down in Florida. We predominantly in Hatteras, in this area up here on the East Coast off the Oregon Inlet to Hatteras, we have some of the biggest cobia in the United States. They have some big ones up in the bay, and it's like our cobia in the last few years, they go by here flying. It's like every year the water gets warmer and things go by faster and they go further north. I heard of cobias being caught in New York last summer.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of cobias in the bay. I think it's a deep water access. They like the mouth of that bay. It's 80 to 100 foot into the mouth of the bay, and all these inlets here are shoaling up. Owen Lupton, as a matter of fact, over around Cedar Island, used to catch them all the time back in the Sound. As much tarpon fishing and drum fishing as I have done, I have never caught one in the Sound. On that side, I've caught them on this side,
Right.
back at the inlet, bait fishing, but never on that side. But I think the inlets are so shallow, they just go, a lot of fish just go right on by.
That's a very good point, Rick. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thanks for talking with us. We'll get you back on the show here real soon, okay?
All right, take care.
That was Captain Rick Caton. Again, I've known him for almost 40 years. He is one of the best fishermen I've ever been out with. I've been striper fishing with him, bluefish, Spanish mackerel, all sorts of fishing with Rick. Fantastic fellow. He is an upfront guy. If you like people who are bold and upfront, Rick Caton is your man, and don't be surprised in how he responds in that fashion. Anyway, if you have suggestions, by the way, of a charter boat captain, of somebody along the coast of North Carolina that has experience, expertise, and just anything that's saltwater related. That's the premise of this channel, by the way. It's just saltwater related. That's all it has to be. Email me, billhitchcock@mail.com, billhitchcock@mail.com. That's the best way to get up with me. Give me your suggestions. We'd love to get some more folks on the program. I'm Bill Hitchcock. Until next time, see ya.
Post your questions, comments, and concerns here on YouTube, or email them directly to Bill Hitchcock at this address.